I never want to be in a position where I am in proximity to someone, that there is an opportunity to treat them with dignity, and I choose not to.
Yo, man. Boom, it's Rusty. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Public Access Podcast, the podcast here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. I'm your host, Rusty Diamond. Find me anywhere on the internet. You can go to rustydiamond.net, popuphealing.net, or hypnosisisgreat.com. You can find me a lot of ways, whatever you want. There's a good way to communicate with me, however you want to communicate. I'm open to pretty much any style of communication, whatever gets the conversation going. And that's what we're going to do. We have conversation going. And it's time for me to bring on my special guest right here and right now. And my special guest right here and right now is Paul Granger. What is the weirdest or most unexpected skill you picked up over the years, and how did you learn it?
Weirdest and most unexpected skill I've picked up over the years. Sorry, the one that came to my mind. It's not a widely useful skill, but whatever you call the skill that Weird Al Yankovic has, where he can take a song and make it into something new and entertaining. That's something that I've been doing for about, I don't know, 20 years now, maybe more. So
What? Okay, how did that come about?
So if I remember the origin story correctly, and the older I get, the harder it is to remember. My friend and I always love to be creative, have fun, do crazy things. And one day he wanted to create a song for his girlfriend. And this was an original composition. It was a short thing. It was really random and weird, but that awoke something in us. And I don't know when the first one was, but we started to make songs for our friends. But at some point we transitioned to taking the karaoke versions of songs and then making our own lyrics for it. And at first it used to be just birthdays, and people came to start to expect it. What they did not expect is that we would eventually start doing it at their weddings during the reception without giving them any prior notice. We would grab the microphone and say, "We've got something special for the lucky two here." And then we would do a song. So I actually did a song for his wedding. His wife her name is Haley, and she used to love the song Hey Ya. And so we turned it into Haley. And I mean, I had backup singers, backup dancers, not as intense as somebody might be picturing. It was very low key, but it has continued to this day, where the church that I attend has an annual retreat. And so now my wife and I will recreate songs. We just did this past year. The theme was old TV shows. I think that's what this year was. And we basically just took songs from, like, She Loves Gilmore Girls. So there was a Gilmore Girls song in there. Full House, of course, made its way in there. And so yeah, now this is not a skill that I can pull out all the time, but I have pulled it out a lot more than one would expect.
Okay. Are these then saved, or are they one and done and then into the realm of nothingness?
It's a mix. It's a mix, right? Some of them are saved, and we'll go back and listen to them sometimes. One of my pastors, he was going for a year-long sabbatical, and his name is Donald Coleman, but we learned his middle name is Lucius. And so around the time that Hamilton came out, instead of Alexander Hamilton, it was Donald Lucius Coleman, and did a short version. But then when he went on sabbatical, it did a whole full version. That one still exists. My friend of mine actually used to go to school with Lin-Manuel Miranda and showed it to him, and he said, "Cool." Or something simple like that she was like excited about. I was like, I think he was kind of trying to move on, but that's cool. Thanks, Lynn. But then there's a bunch that, this was, some of this was pre-YouTube, or at least pre people using YouTube,
Yeah.
and pre cell phones with actual usable video cameras. And so it was one and done. It was like you had to be there and then hope you could hold on to that memory as long as possible. And some of those I wish did exist, but it's all right. You know what? Sometimes things are meant to be in the moment and not stretched out.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, to have that as well. I feel like there's a lot of things that I like to see that you can't really do over again, and it wouldn't make
Mm-hmm.
sense in the same context as if you were
Yeah.
there watching it. When someone's watching your video, someone went back in time or snuck a camcorder into your performance unknowingly,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it wouldn't have the same context, you wouldn't have the same reason for
Yeah.
everything, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
some things are meant for that, some things are meant to be
Yeah.
listened to over and over. And
You know what it makes me think of is one of the really unfortunate things about the increase of technology is it used to be when you went to a performance, you were present. Like you were there. You know, maybe you paid for the seat or maybe it's someone you cared about, but you're sitting there and you're taking it in. And
yeah,
now you go to a performance of any kind, and what's everybody doing? You know, they're holding up the phone and they're
right,
really looking at their phone. They're not even looking at the performance. They're technically looking at it. And I think we think we're still present, but I used to there's a few times that I did the videography for some friends' weddings. And I remember uh, one wedding that I was so excited about, really close friends. And, I'm filming it and I was happy to do it for them. And I finished filming it and I felt like I hadn't experienced the wedding at all because like my mind was on recording it. And it
right,
was this weird dichotomy where it's like on one hand, I had experienced it more deeply than anyone else because I had to be fully attentive, but there was a part of my brain that was not fully connected because it was focused on this device. And
yeah,
I was like, I both watched this and missed it at the same time. And so, man, sometimes I take a lot of pictures of my kids, and sometimes I'm like, I need to just not have the phone right now, even though I'm trying to capture these moments, because in capturing these moments, I might miss these moments.
right. And I'm totally with you there. I used to help out filming wrestling shows, and it was the same thing. Like I'd be
Yeah.
watching it, but then I have no clue really what's going on. But then I know exactly what's going on in these small intricacies, but missing the
Yeah.
whole big picture, which
Yeah.
is something too with, like you were saying, with your taking videos of your kids. Or I see it a lot at concerts too, and it's wild. Just um, and I don't know, and I've thought this too with having like other kinds of crazy experiences. Like I could go and have a camera out, or I could be sitting and writing everything down that's going through my head, or I can be present in the moment, but I won't have all this footage
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
documented stuff. And it's a hard back and
Mhm.
forth trying to figure out um, really what works there. I wanted to go back real quick. Did you see the movie uh, Weird, the Weird Al one?
I did. Yeah. The one with, was it Daniel Radcliffe that was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did see it.
Okay. It was pretty good. I
Uh,
just a side note on that one. And so yeah, I mean it's hard though with worrying what you'll miss. And
yeah.
I saw a video of someone saying that they had taken a video of, what did we have recently? Was it an eclipse or something, or the
Yeah.
Northern
Yeah.
Lights?
Oh yeah, but
And
I mean, all of the above. We're having a
yeah,
lot of stuff happening.
and they said that they were like they weren't actually watching it. They were watching what was on their phone. Like they couldn't see
Yeah,
as well as the
yeah,
phone sees.
yeah,
And so
yeah. The
they're
Northern Lights, that was a big thing. Is the camera sensors get what our eyes can't get, so you see more
yeah,
colors and.
which in part is cool, and I kind of feel that it's with the AI and stuff of that
Mhm.
nature. Like you get this extra part, but then you're missing the fundamentals. If you're playing basketball and you know how to do a 360 flip dunk, but you don't know how to dribble the basketball, like you're missing out on a lot of what actually
Mhm.
makes it, but you're able to go and ascend to these levels faster. Hopefully you can go back and learn how to get to that and backtrack to figure
Yeah.
out how to do the stuff, but
Yeah.
you don't really need to. And that's
Yeah.
a weird part now too, that
Yeah.
yeah, you can miss out on so much by trying to capture it. And then fireworks too are another thing,
Uh,
a lot of people like to take videos of fireworks and not really just sitting there, just sitting up watching the fireworks, just
yeah.
spending the whole time on video, I can't say videotaping it, but I guess you have to say
You're
recording.
dating yourself.
Yeah,
Well, and that's why I was gonna say something that would date me as well. Is maybe part of our problem is the seeming unlimited nature of things
yeah,
because right now like I take as many photos as I want on my phone of my kids because it's hypothetically unlimited. It's not. I am constantly running out of space, but it is a
right,
lot more space than I was ever used to. But you and I know a time where if you wanted to take pictures, you get what was it, like 32 on a roll or something
about
like
that.
that,
Yeah,
and you'd open it up, you put the roll in, and that's all you get, as long like assuming that you didn't ruin the film in the first place.
yeah,
And then that meant that all of those pictures, like everyone you took, had to be meaningful. And if it
right.
wasn't, then it was wasted. And I wonder if there's something in that when, that unlimited is actually more limited that than we realize. And that limited can actually open us up to more intentionality. But how do you do that when, like you noted, AI is opening up a whole world of things,
Right.
and it makes me think too that AI seemingly unlimited. I mean, it's learning, and there's a lot. We've all seen the Will Smith spaghetti video from a couple years
Oh,
ago that
right.
was like frighteningly horrible, and then a
Yeah,
year later, it's like, oh, that's like passable, and who knows next year. But will AI be able to fully capture humanity? It can mimic humanity, but will it be able to fully capture it? And if we're going all in on something that we think is unlimited, are we actually limiting ourselves?
yeah, and I mean, I felt that with making music. I would have that happen a whole bunch with making music
Mm-hmm.
and or editing video too. Same thing. Like I used Windows Movie Maker for the longest time, just holding on to that because it
I
was
forgot about Windows Movie Maker.
a
That
lot of
was my
people do.
jam.
Yeah, and it was very simple, very
Mm-hmm.
intuitive, and I knew how to work every little bit of that. Whereas now I try, uh, I'm on a Mac right now, but the other things, it's all a big learning curve, and there's a
Yeah.
lot to learn with more things coming, and like you
Mm-hmm.
start focusing on those slam dunks when when you pass up trying to dribble down the court and you
Mm-hmm.
just run down the court carrying the ball,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some people can notice it, some people don't notice it, some people are looking for the highlight reel, and that's a hard thing too, is getting to that different level of storytelling and whatever it is, if it's music or video making or anything,
Mm-hmm.
even now a reel of pictures is something that's a common practice now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't know, it's hard to just have the long drawn out, like you can't do a movie anymore where you're looking out a window for 2 3 minutes and then it slowly goes up to the window.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just so many fast cuts, and
Yeah.
you have to really and like there's the thing called is it the millennial pause at the beginning of videos, where and I guess a bunch of the younger crowd is very turned off by this, but it's basically you hit record and then you're expecting it to wait for a fraction of a second
Yeah.
before you can go. Whereas, and so it has like this brief
Mm-hmm.
little like minute pause. Um, but that's something we would never have thought of, and still I
Yeah.
find this weird to just jump into a video, and you have to catch them within that
Mhm.
short little time. There's no the
Yeah.
storytelling isn't is necessary as it is, and that's a hard one because I was so like storytelling was drilled so hard into my head, and
Mhm.
I think it needs to have some sort of resurgence, or it needs to, I don't know, it needs something. There still needs to be some
Yeah.
story to what's going on.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes the extent to which we have rewired our brains as just as people and to what extent that is reversible and to what extent that has forever changed things. And so you talked about like the fast cuts, right?
Yeah.
And when you were talking about it, it made me think of the rare show like Mr. Rogers. That was very intentional in everything it did to not fall into these spaces that they were recognizing could be harmful. So instead of like bam, 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 and big, loud, like it was
Yeah.
calm. It was like long cuts. The camera follows Mr. Rogers, and I mean that show was not just popular, but hugely impactful, right?
Right.
But now, with these cuts, our brains actually expect something. Like you're noting, if something goes longer than a few seconds, there's something it's something uncomfortable in our minds. And I've
Right.
had this conversation a few times with people around the idea of communication. And I've come to believe that we might have actually forever ruined communication, because it used to be that communication was this the thing a thing that required patience, right?
Right.
If you and I were in the same room and we were talking, okay, it was different at a time when you didn't have things distracting you like phones, when you didn't have someone calling or texting, you're getting notifications on your wrist. Like right now, you and I are able to focus to talk because we've chosen to not let there be distractions. But if we were just having coffee, we might be constantly bombarded by things. But if you weren't in
Y-
close proximity, you would have to write a letter and then you'd have to mail it off. Well, now, if I want to communicate with someone, I have to figure out what form of communication is going to be the one most likely to be received by them, because, and I learned this the last few places that I've worked, everybody has their different thing and nobody wants to align on one thing. So for some, email is the way. Well, for others, they've got 10,000 unread emails. Like they're not even going to check it. Then others, WhatsApp might be a thing. But then there's someone else who's like, well, I don't want to download that. Just text me. But then others might not even look at their text, or they look at it and then forget and it goes down. Right. And so now if I want to talk to 10 people, I might actually need to communicate in 10 ways and still not be guaranteed that they will engage it and respond. And we have become so inundated with all these ways of connecting that we're struggling to connect. And that's why I say I wonder if we've ruined it forever, because I don't know how we come back from that as a whole. Individually, people can unplug and work things out, but as a whole, have we so crowded the landscape that now we can't actually connect with each other well?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that easily, and it's hard to be able to figure that out. And then, yeah, some people change their mind. Some people don't want, like, I like to call people. I wouldn't mind doing a video call, just like, hey, I haven't, like, here's this person. Let's give them a video call, or let's call them
Mm-hmm.
up. There's not a lot of people who want to pick up the phone anymore, and that's a hard
Yeah.
one to get past too. And I feel, that's also having to learn how to find 10 different ways to communicate with people, and
Mm-hmm.
that may or may not work. And so, yeah, I mean, like, I've had that with the WhatsApp for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want, okay, and that's the only place I check. You don't, you can't do Facebook Messenger because I don't do Facebook,
Right.
or
Yeah.
I don't check my emails, or don't call me. I only do text. Okay, like, I it's one of those things that, um, I don't think people should have to wear something on their on their shirt or something that says, "This is how you best work with
Yeah.
me."
Yeah.
Um, I think we may be going down that route, and like if people can embrace it and
Mhm.
understand a way for that to be okay, that people are that
Mhm.
kind of set in what would do and what would work, then that's okay if we can get to that. But I just
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to get to that effectively, even if I've had this conversation recently. If someone's having like an anxiety or panic attack, like what's the best way
Mm.
to like know what to do with someone when they're
Mhm.
having that? Because or if there's something going on, some sort of event, and you tell someone to calm down, and they tell you to piss off, and
Mhm.
like what but then it's this well intention, or tell someone to take a breath, and
Mhm.
like a lot of people can take that the wrong way. But I think if everyone can kind of recognize what works best for them and just kind of be able to embrace it, and but not make it a thing where it's taboo to talk about. I
Yeah.
think talking about it is important and letting people know, because it's one of those, how would you know otherwise? It's I don't, and especially someone like myself, I don't want to play guessing games. I don't want to try to figure out puzzles. I want the information. What's the best, most effective way to communicate with you? How do we
Mm.
do that? And how do we get through to each other?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't. I don't know, because then there's uh, the whole. I don't know. I've learned a lot about different kinds of minds recently.
Yeah.
That whole deal, and like a lot of people
Yeah.
like the small talk and the being able to
Mm.
communicate that way and be able to pick up on people's subtle hints of stuff and really enjoy that. And
Mhm.
myself, I don't like that. I
Yeah.
don't. It's not working for me, and so
Yeah. Well, and I think it really speaks to this willingness to humbly consider, who am I in these different spaces? How am I being aware of others in these spaces? Why am I interacting the ways that I'm interacting? And part of that can lead to what you were saying when you're interacting with somebody who is having a panic attack. If we're just inwardly self-focused, then we might be thinking mainly about how this is impacting my experience and want that
right,
thing to stop. If we are practicing an awareness of others, then we may at least also ask the question of, but what how can I assume positive intent here? How can I actually be mindful that this is a person who deserves to be treated with dignity, right? Like these little things.
right,
You could still be frustrated about how it's impacting you, but you can at least bring that piece into it. And when we recognize the humanity of others, it changes things. We may not have all the answers, but it at least positions us to look. And we might be surprised at what we're capable of. So I'm like you. I Small talk's just not my thing.
yeah,
Like you get me at a party with a whole bunch of people I don't know, least comfortable space. Like at a
yeah,
wedding reception, I'm gonna find someone that I know that I can also have a deeper conversation with than just so the weather and
yeah,
how's work. And so I live in a community where it's densely populated. There's a lot of people that will constantly be walking up and down the street. But it's also a community where there has been historically a lot of poverty, a lot of crime, a lot of hardship, a lot of challenges. And a lot of my neighbors are often ignored or looked negatively upon. And one of the things that I know that I am invited to do is to love my neighbors, like to not ignore them, to not disregard them, to not judge them, but to
yeah,
recognize the humanity. And so, an easy way to do that is just to wave, to say hi, to like have that. I'm sitting on the porch, they're walking by, to have that small talk conversation. Now, again, I'm not a small talk guy, but I have found it has been incredibly easy to enter those spaces, because instead of coming just out of myself, do I like small talk? No. Oh man, there's somebody coming. Let me go inside real quick. My
Right.
starting point, I'm trying more and more to make this happen, is shifted to, hey, this person deserves to feel loved. Like this person deserves to feel seen. And it's very easy to be like, hey, how's it going? And we'll have these seemingly meaningless conversations about something that we might not think about later. But in that moment, it wasn't about the words. It was about both of us seeing each other and interacting. And I've had a lot of small talk conversations that were natural that I look back on later and said, man, I would have normally hated that. But it was that drive of seeing the humanity in others, of showing dignity and love that actually made me able to do it.
Was it something that um, attracted you to those certain people? Like, because if I see 5 people that I probably wouldn't want to experience or talk to very much, but then one of the people there, like, I'm like, I think there's something about that person. Like, I could probably go talk to them right now. Is it something like
Mm.
that? Or is it anyone that you see, you wave to them and say hello? Or because,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good question. Yeah, so like I said, at a wedding reception, my eyes will go to, of all these people, who is it that it looks like there's the highest likelihood of there being some kind of connection. But
yeah,
in general, uh, anybody that crosses my path is somebody that deserves dignity. So like, how can I do it? Now, I don't want people to hear this and think that I'm this super altruistic person that every time, like, there are plenty of times where I'm like, I don't have the energy right now, or I'm really tired, or I'm having a rough day. And if I walk that way, I'm going to pass someone that I'll have to have a conversation with, or they might ask me for money, or they might this, that, and the other. And sometimes
yeah.
I still have those moments, and those moments are sometimes justified. Sometimes we need boundaries and space. But if I do what I don't want to do, let me put it this way: I never want to be in a position where I am in proximity to someone, that there is an opportunity to treat them with dignity, and I choose not to, right? Like, and it's obvious. Like, I don't want to ever do that. So if somebody's walking, I'm on the porch and they're walking down the street, and close enough to talk, and I know they're making eye contact, and I intentionally look down, I don't want to do that, because that will communicate something. And especially in a community like mine, there has been a lot of uh, changes, a lot of transition in demographics, and there are a lot of people that have been avoiding neighbors. Their home is their sanctuary, which is totally fine. But when they get home, they run right into their door. They don't interact with neighbors, and people can have their home as sanctuary. But there have also been moments where longtime neighbors who are more interactive and communal have felt that, and have felt ignored and disregarded. And so whether it was an intentional move or not, the end result was like, this person's intentionally avoiding me. This person totally like turned away when I was waving at them. And oh man, and it can bring all this negativity. And so I want to at least be mindful, intentional. Um, and yeah, and a lot of times it's with someone that I may have nothing in common with. Or, as I
Or
noted
everything.
before, it may be someone that I know is going to ask me for money or ask me for something. It's going to put me in an awkward situation. But even in that moment, I recognize there is still an opportunity to treat them with dignity. And even if it is to say, I don't have any money on you right now, but I
Yeah,
can pray for you, or I can, this, that, or the other. I've got a sandwich inside. You want that? Like, I could still choose whether or not to show love to someone. I can count the cost of it. I can balance it out. But when I choose not to, I better know my reasons for choosing not to. And I better
right.
feel good about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you get someone that you have a bad feeling about,
Mm-hmm.
then that's okay
Yep.
to walk on by. And I mean,
Boundaries are a healthy
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, and not everybody's for everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing too. You don't have to like everybody. Not everybody has to like you, or if you don't, or they can just be someone doing something. You hope for something good for their existence, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to cross paths with them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. But I mean, so what happens? 'Cause I don't know. 'Cause I was down in like So I was down in New York the other day, it was Friday, I think it was. No, it was Thursday. It was the day after that guy got shot, and I was
Mm,
like, someone like walked up to me. This woman walked up to me and goes, "This is where that guy got shot yesterday." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, thanks for letting me know." Um,
mhm,
but then there was a man that came up to me and he started talking to me and he was asking for money. I'm like, I don't have
mhm.
any money. Like I can show you my wallet right now, but it's like it's a paper clip, like one of those binder clips,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
there's no money in there. There's just a few cards, like, and then he said to
yeah.
me, you know, I hope someday that you're in this position, and
Mm,
I was like, well, that's not really fair. Like, I like really don't have anything. Like, I'm trying to talk to you, but like, there's nothing. This is what you're asking for. I don't have it. Like, and like normally in New York, it's you you keep your head down. Sometimes I'll give the down nod to people that I see, and um, like I talked to this one dude who was telling me all about where to. Like, I was down in the train station. No, I was in the subway station, and he was telling me all the places not to go if I don't want to get robbed. Because I was also wearing different
mhm,
clothes. Like, it was a cold day, and so my mom bought me a jacket when I moved to Minnesota, and I wore it one time, but it was cold, and like I was going to a show there that day, so I was wearing nicer clothes. I was wearing this nice jacket.
mhm.
Normally, I'm dressed. Uh, I like, especially if I'm going into a city, I'm dressed down as much as I can. Like, I don't want to, like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of money, but like with that jacket, I probably look like I had money, and so
Mhm,
normally I'm trying to avoid that. And plus, I like to wear sweatpants and
mhm.
sweatshirts every day anyway. So yeah, wearing something like that, it just felt different. And when the guy said that, it just sort of threw me back, and it was it stuck with me. So I mean, that's good. It stuck with me, but I don't know if that was
Yeah,
a fair thing for him to say to me, but maybe it was, and maybe one day I will be, and maybe I have been before. So
yeah,
maybe he doesn't know that either.
yeah. Well, and that's the hard thing is we don't know, right?
Yeah,
Like, and sometimes the person doesn't even know all of why they're saying what they're saying. You know, somebody maybe trying to be spiteful, or maybe they're wrestling with a lot of fear, or maybe there's a mental health thing going on. And so that's what makes this hard is we want every interaction to work out well. And we
right.
also want none of the interactions to negatively impact us as far as like what will cost us. So we're balancing all these things, but the truth is that there's so much that we can't control. The one thing we can control is again that mindfulness. In all right, somebody's approaching me. Who am I going to be in this moment?
Yeah,
How can I be honest to what boundaries should be in place? How can I be honest about what boundaries I'm putting up for maybe unhealthy or unloving reasons? What like being honest in that moment means that at the very end of it, we can end up saying, despite what happened, I feel good about the choices that I made. Because yeah, I mean, there are people who are legitimately taking advantage of people. There are people that maybe they're not scamming, but they will manipulate. Your story made me think of a time where there was a guy who I knew, but he forgot. Like he just did not keep me in memory. Like we had gone into the same church several times. Like we had been in same interaction several times. But he saw me and came and he asked for money. And I was waiting for somebody to arrive for a meeting. So I literally couldn't go anywhere. But he's like, well, you said you don't have money. There's an ATM just down the street. Let's just, I was like, I can't. And he ends up cursing me out. I'm like,
whoa.
but I
Okay,
knew
but
I felt good about the decisions I had made. I had
yeah,
to come to peace with that. Like I, I cannot take responsibility for his choices in that
right.
moment. Um, but I can process what I've done. No, that the way I did it is the way I would do it.
Yeah,
And on the other end of the spectrum, there are people that are legitimately in need, that
Yeah.
are in a legitimate hard space that they didn't expect to be in. There's nothing else they could do, and they really do just need $1 in
Or,
that moment. You know, we can never tell in those moments,
yeah.
but we can know who we are in those moments.
Yeah. And we can talk to someone and feel them out just as we would anybody else. And if it is not it's not a negative experience, it's a learning experience. If it's something like that, it's for some reason teaching us some sort of lesson about something we need to know within ourselves and how to treat and handle others. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
important. And yeah, just sometimes maybe we just need a little kick in the pants just to remember, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, this is someone, and
Yeah.
not everything as what you think it is. Even when,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what something's going to be when I walk up to it, but I'm not always right, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Then that's something also I think that we need to build within each other.
Yeah.
There's the so there's one thing I like talking about, the butterflies in your stomach when you meet someone that you're falling in love with at first sight. Like, that's not what that is. That's your body telling you that be on guard. There's
Mm.
something you need to be watching out
Pay
for. And
attention.
yeah,
Yeah.
whether that's good or bad. And people need to trust their gut, but people also need to
Mm.
be open for experiences. And
Yeah.
so if people want to trust their gut and be open to experiences, how are they going to find you in the world to do that? Or how are they going to work with you? How are they going to find your work? Or how can they just, yeah, meet up with you and talk with you?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I love to communicate when I think about who I am and what I do. So there's been little hints dropped in it, but I'm full-time volunteer ministry. Like I haven't gotten a traditional paycheck in 6 years, but a lot of how I function is based around this idea of how can I come alongside others. And so, I've got a podcast, I've got books, all these things, but really what I'm trying to do is cultivate authentic, accessible space where however I can come alongside someone, I want to be able to do that. So whether it is on my porch
Yeah,
or it's a book that I wrote that somebody reads, or it's a podcast conversation and everything in between, I want to come into those spaces authentic, and I want to be accessible, whether somebody believes in God or not, whether somebody's having a good day or not, whether somebody knows me or not. Right? Like,
right.
how can anybody have access to me in any given moment, and how can I be authentic in that interaction? And so if anybody did want to connect with me, the one-stop shop for all that is wheredidyouseegod.com, and it is Facebook, Instagram. But really, again, here's what I know, and what we just demonstrated is life can be hard to figure out sometimes. Life can be confusing. You can
Right.
think you figured it out, and then technology changes, and now there's this new platform, there's this new communication thing. You're like, oh man, I'm still
Yeah.
waiting for 5 seconds after I push record. Right? It's like
Yeah.
things are
Yeah.
constantly changing, and we aren't always changing with it. And that can make it hard to know who we are and how we function. Um, what I love to do is just make myself available to just journey with people as they're trying to figure all this out.
Yeah. And well, like we were talking about earlier too, was the part with being able to find out how to communicate with those people. You just demonstrated what you do, and so you just gotta put that at a bigger level. You already figured it
Mm-hmm.
out, so you figured out your deep question from earlier on in the episode. You got it figured out already. That's how you get them all on the WhatsApp or
Uh-huh.
the email or the phone. You got enough places, they'll find you, and the right people will find you when they need to find you. The when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Mm-hmm.
That whole deal, and other things that people say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, thanks so much for coming on here, Paul. And yeah, I enjoyed talking with you. And Yeah, and hope you get to have a great rest of your day. And yeah, we'll keep in touch and do this again sometime. All right.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk, Rusty. I
You
appreciate it.
bet. All right. Well, take care. That is Paul Granger, everyone. You see that nice edit? There's a cool transition, I bet, right there. So thank you, everybody, for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. Check me out, rustydiamond.net, popuphealing.net, hypnosisisgreat.com. Or if you're in the Philadelphia area, you can go to Westchester, PA, or Princeton, New Jersey, and you can do a float with a hypnosis at East Coast Float Spa. You get an hour with me in your ear holes. Actually, it's not, because they use those bone conducting, I don't know if they're headphones, headset, I guess is the word. 'Cause that's what they found is best to work in the water. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. You want to watch the show on YouTube? That's cool. You can watch it on YouTube or Rumble. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can go anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like it, share it, send it around. Ask me a question. You can email me, you can call me, whatever way you want to get a hold of me. There's some way to get a hold of me. It's pretty easy. Pretty easy. So do that. And thank you everybody so much. Really appreciate you here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And that is the show. Man, boom!